Academy of Cheese for us, all the way from Paris. Galina is originally from Russia, and you have a Parisian boyfriend, I believe, or is he a French husband, rather? Husband.
Yes, now it's 16 years that we are together, so
wow.
It's rather a husband.
Yes, definitely a husband. Sorry.
Yes, no. Sure, yes.
Galina, like Claire Lewis, who's in the audience here tonight, she studied at Tours University, didn't you, in France? And your speciality was cheese as cultural heritage. So about the culture and history of cheese. And this is what inspired you to get into cheese, I believe.
Yes, it started gradually. You know, when you move in France and you start to live this way of life, it's kind of contagious, I would say. You cannot avoid all the companies with a good wine, with a good food, with a Warsaw wine or Warsaw food to start to compare.
Yes.
So yes, you'll find the interest in this part of life, because for me, in Russia, we are not so food centered. No. It was never a part of my own culture, but here it really, when I started to discover it, and not only from the organoleptic point of view, we would say with the taste, as the smells, and what we touch, but also with its culture, its history, because everything is melted, everything is mixed here. And it was so exciting. And me being an IT specialist for 20 years, I love to go to, to the very basis of everything. I love structured approach to everything. So I started to learn to read more and more, taste more and more. And after some time, maybe 8-9 years I've spent in France. And yes, my interest became really already something in between a lover, advanced lover, and professional. Yes. And I asked myself, should I go further or keep it just as a hobby? And we discussed it a lot with my husband, and he said, why not? That's why I threw myself. I left my job, and I made my first diploma, as you mentioned, in the University of Tours. It's in Loire region in central France. Yes, it was more dedicated exactly to this scientific part. Yes. The history, the geography of products, how it was made, how people eat cheese, why they choose this or that. It was very, very interesting. And the specialists there were very, I don't know, on the top. They could share with us their passion. Yeah. And when I was already full of knowledge, then I wanted to add some practical part, and I joined the school here in Paris. It's a school which prepares the specialists, rather cheesemongers, but of the directors of shops, or really the managers.
Okay, so for the cheesemongers, the retailers, rather than the cheese makers.
Yes, yeah. It was really for the cheesemongers, and we learned all the theoretical part, all the documents of DOP nearly by heart, all the history of all the cheeses, the kitchen, how you eat them, how you sell them, how you explain them, how you cut them, how you wrap them. So it was really a mix of everything, all the norms, of property, how it should be respected, and
so you have a lot of experience.
Yes, and at the same time, it's really a very good school, because every student has a 1-year working contract with a shop. Mm-hmm. So you work as a cheesemonger, yeah, in some shop, and real one, all the time, full time, and only 3 days every 2 weeks you pass a full time at school. So it's really the combination of a real experience in a real shop, and the science of whatever you do at the shop. And 1 year, it's quite a long period, so you really obtain a very good basis to continue. And after this school, after some time, I opened my own shop. So I applied all that I've learned before to my own business. And now, after several years, I try to add a little bit more of activities linked to the sharing now my knowledge and my experience with the others, as my teachers did before.
That's what we like. Yes.
Yes. Now it's my turn. So
you're going to share some of your knowledge with us tonight, and you've chosen to talk about, you're going to tell us all about 4 cheeses that you absolutely love from the Normandy region. So I'm going to disappear and hand over to you. If you can share your screen, and I'll swap things around so that everybody has a good view. And then I'll field you any questions. So tell us all about your Normandy cheeses.
Oh, yes, I love this region. Actually, there is no cheese that I don't appreciate, really. If you ask me, every cheese really worth trying and giving it a chance, especially French cheeses. Sorry, I'm a little bit French chauvinist. Sorry. I'm really sorry. It's my throat. Sometimes it breaks. So, but why Normandy? Maybe because everyone knows at least one Normandy cheese. Everyone knows Camembert, and maybe it's a cheese which is the most misunderstood, because there is so many varieties of this cheese made in the world. There are so many varieties of tastes, of affinage, aging levels. You can find absolutely different textures and tastes. So everyone has his own image of Camembert. But I wanted to show you, first of all, the real Camembert of Normandy, tell a little bit about this cheese, and even how to say, not only to present this one, which is really the king of the French cheeses everywhere, but to show you the 3 other DOP cheeses protected by the appellations, as we call it here in France, which are much older than Camembert, which were much more popular in the region, but which are really not that famous, not that known in the world. And I think it's not, there is not justice in this situation. I want you to learn really those cheese too, and to look at them and to give them maybe a chance later to gain your hearts and to become your favorite cheeses, maybe, who knows. But first of all, let's start from a little bit of geography. As you've got it, I like a lot all this science approach, where it comes from. It's really in north of France. It's on the coast of English Channel. And since it's very close to the water of the sea, the climate is very humid. 3 or 4 centuries ago, it was really, how to say in French, it's a marécage. It's a soil which is mixed with water. So it was really very difficult to manipulate for agriculture, I would say. I'm really sorry if I make mistakes in my English, because it's not my native language, but I try to be clear.
You are doing great.
The vegetation in the area is very rich because there is lots of humidity in the soil and in the air. And besides of it, with the air which comes from the sea, there is a lot of salt and iode, I don't know if I pronounce it well, which comes from the sea, and it adds a special flavor to the herbs, and it's transmitted later, it's passed to the milk and to the cheeses. And sometimes, maybe you've heard about it, you can find even this iode salted taste in the meat, because sometimes the cows or the sheep which are eating those herbs, even the meat absorbs, takes this flavor of salt and iode of the sea. It's really very appreciated products. And with the time, first of all, as we started from 14th, 15th, 16th century, it was really the region of the meat. They grew the cows for the meat mostly. But then for some economic reasons, they found out that the milk products were also very appreciated, but we'll see it later. So just several looks at the typical Normandy views. Etretat, it may be the most famous view on the sea with the rocks like this. If you have a chance, don't lose it. Normandy is really magnificent. I love this region. The typical farm, you see, with those black pointed tops in Normandy and the French Brittany, this part, it's really typical, very typical. You can recognize easily by these roofs, by the tops. And this famous Normandy cow, it's really a local race, which is quite universal because it gives a very good meat, and at the same time, it gives a milk of a very high quality, which is very good for making cheese. It contains a lot of proteins, it contains enough of fat, and since you see with the herbs, as I explained, of a special quality, really the dairy products are very special in this area. The same cow. So you see the water everywhere. I didn't lie. And you saw it, the area on the north. And now we approach a little bit closer just to see the area of production of our 4 cheeses. You see the Camembert, it's on the left, on the top in the corner, the green zone. It's the biggest, maybe, of all the 4 cheeses we'll see today. And in quantity produced, it's also now the biggest production, I would say. The second, with the same big area, you see it in red rose color, Pont. They superpose, or they take nearly the same area, I will say, with just a little differences between Camembert area and Pont area. This smaller one, it's in the same, a little bit, how to say, in the same area. It's a Livarot with a blue zone, and you see in the middle, you see how they are located, comparing one to another. So those 3 are nearly in the same area and a little bit apart to the east. It's a very, very small area of the 4th, and maybe the less known cheese from Normandy, which is called Neufchâtel. Not to be mistaken, because there is a cheese which is called Neufchâtel, which is made in Switzerland. Yes, in Swiss Alps. And those are completely two different cheeses, because French Neufchâtel, it's a soft cheese, and the Swiss one, it's a hard cheese, rather Alpine style. But they are written, spelled nearly the same way. So when you see it, always ask this question: is it a French one or it's a Swiss one? And this area is really very, very little. But just to give you the idea, in the right down corner, it's already the Paris area. So Normandy, it's really, geographically speaking, quite close to the capital. And historically, at the end of the 19th century, it's really changed the destiny of all those cheeses. We'll see it later. We come to the history now. And I found the first mentions of all these 4 cheeses. For instance, in 1230, there is a book which is called The Roman of the Rose, which was written and which mentions already, I translated it more or less correctly. I don't know if it is quite good, but it already mentions the Angelon cheese. It was a name which was used for all the Normandy cheeses in 15th, 16th, even 17th century, because the second name of the Normandy region is Auge region. And Auge, it gave Augelon, and then it was transformed into Angelon, like angel, because it was more understandable for people. So it became Angelon, for like a generic name for all the Normandy cheeses. But in this concrete case, the historian think it's he speak about the Livarot style, because geographically it was really the Livarot production area. If we speak about Pont-l'Évêque, this mentioned in 1662, one doctor who wrote to his mademoiselle a book of love, but which was named the Ode to Pont-l'Évêque, to the cheese. I don't know what he wanted to say to his mademoiselle, because for me, speak about the cheese just to show his love, it's a little bit strange. But still, in this book, he also uses the name Augelot or Angelo. But since he's from Pont-l'Évêque village, the historian think it was rather a Pont-l'Évêque style cheese. Vimoutier, it's really a center of Camembert region, and already in 1680, we have a book which mentions Camembert as a Camembert, which gives no doubts now that Marie Harel had nothing to do with an invention of cheese, of Camembert especially. It's a very beautiful legend. I love it. You know, this transmission from a monk who gave the recipe during the revolution time. But as you see, 100 years earlier, there was already cheese Camembert produced in the area of Camembert. So maybe Marie Harel was not an inventor of it. For you to decide. And as I said, for the less known cheese, for the Neufchâtel, it's the oldest of all, because under its name, it is already mentioned in 16th century. And in the name of by the area, in the cheese by the area, cheese from Bray, it's already was mentioned, written, and this written document, we can see it even today. It dates in 11th century. So something to respect. When I see the numbers like this, it's really, it touches me. 1,000 years for the cheese, something to respect, I think. And I really wanted to show you this. Those are the pictures of farmers' wives. As you know, all those little cheeses were produced mostly by women, because it was a women part, you know, the kitchen, the cheeses, treating cows, making cheeses, looking after them. It was a work for women. And even to transport the milk, you see those wonderful things. They put it on the shoulder, and with a very long, how to say, the rope or something like this, using the head as a support, they transported really big quantities. If we see on the photo, it's maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 liters, no, maybe less, no, I'm exaggerating, but 10, 15 easily. So when you put it on your shoulder and you have to walk with it, it should be really something quite physical, quite heavy. But I adore those traditional costumes, as you see on the left. And you know, if you ever visit Normandy or Brittany, in some photo atelier, they can you can borrow some kind of this hat, and to take a photo like this, it's quite fun. It's still available. Something to make just to accomplish your experience of visiting Normandy. Don't hesitate to do it. And just how to qualify every of these 4 cheeses, how it was qualified, as we say, maybe in 19th century, because of really big growth of cheese production in 20. So we see the situation. For instance, the most produced cheese, it was a Livarot cheese. It's a wash-rind cheese, very rich in flavor, quite smelly. We don't say smelly, but with a strong character, I would say. It was made from a skimmed milk, so it was not too fat, but that's why it was not too expensive. And so it was affordable even to poor people. That's why it was known and mentioned in lots of books as a meat of poors. Ta viande pour les pauvres. So it was really produced and eaten everywhere. I found even, you know, the amount of money gained in 1870 selling the Livarot cheeses. It was 4.5 million francs. Why it was interesting for me? Because I compare it in the same year with a Camembert number 3. And the amount of money spent on the market for all the Camembert cheese in the area, it was only 2 million francs. And taking into account the fact that Camembert cheese was much fatter, so it was much expensive by piece. So you can imagine, so it was really more than 3-4 times more for Livarot cheeses sold comparing to Camembert. So Camembert, it was really still very regional cheese with a little production in 1870. Even Pont was much more popular and more spread in the area. It was closer to Livarot because they are closer technologically. Both are wash-rind cheeses, which gives them richer smell. But for me, as you see maybe on the picture, between the Camembert, which is the how to say, the more delicate, then in the middle you see the Pont cheese, which is really in between of Camembert and Livarot. Livarot is the strongest one. Neufchâtel, both technologically and organoleptically in the taste and flavor, It's something a little bit different. It stays apart from the big three, we would say. And the Neufchâtel, as I said, the area is the smallest, and at the same time, it was the most shy of these four cheeses. Even till 1980s, 85% of produced Neufchâtels were sold between Rouen and Amiens. It stayed in the area. It didn't get in Paris even. So even in France, you couldn't find it. It was really local cheese till the end of the 20th century, comparing to Camembert, which took really big popularity at the beginning of 20th century. And we'll see why. Because for two of Normandy cheeses, the really very happy event was the invention of wooden boxes. For Camembert and Pont. It really let those cheeses a chance to travel, because without a wooden box, soft cheeses, they can be crushed and disformed easily, but the box protects it. You can put them one on the top of the other, and it really made it longer, the possible traveling. The second reason why those cheeses became first national stars and secondly international stars is a railway which came from Paris, which linked Paris and Normandy. By this railway, put in the wooden box, those cheeses could easily travel. Paris was not far. It was really maybe 2-3 hours of the way. So the Normandy cheeses started to gain Paris. And the third reason why those cheeses became famous, especially Camembert, during the First World War, those cheeses made part of the food of soldiers, and some foreign soldiers who tasted them, first of all, they appreciated it. And second reason, there was a doctor who promoted them as a good making for the digestion. It helped to the soldiers to live in not in normal conditions, we would say. I would not go to the physical details of a body, but lots of soldiers went home being completely convinced that those cheeses are very good for the health. That's why they started to ask for Camembert everywhere in the world. And now we see that the Camembert is maybe the most produced cheese in the world. You can find it everywhere. And it's finished with history. Oof, now we can pass to the modern life. I wanted to show you, I found several photos. First of all, Camembert of Normandy. We speak about PDO cheese, Camembert of Normandy. And believe me, it's one of the richest, fullest, and smelliest cheeses I've ever tasted. Comparing to the industrial copies of Camembert, simple Camembert, Camembert of Normandy, if you want to taste it, be ready not to be shocked by the richness of the cheese, by the very rich flavor, very rich smell. Here on the photos, the best for me is really the first one, the photo on the top. You see the visual aspect already, the rind, not fully white. It should be striped with orange kind of brick color. The inner part, the heart of the cheese, as we call it in French, it should be really rich yellow with some eyes in it. Also, it's a holes, but we call it eyes. fully developed as it is here. There is no white inside. For me, it's the best cheese when it is on the top of its condition. The one on the second photo, I would say it will be much flatter in taste, not that smelly, not that rich. And the third one, I added it with a fully white rind. I suppose it's not even the Camembert of Normandy, it's really the Camembert industrial one with a very, very thick rind. It's really, you can touch it, it should be even soft like this. And maybe it's the less interesting in taste and the smell. I wanted to give you tips how to choose your cheese. I stop for the moment the demonstration. I come back on the screen. If you want to choose a Camembert and you want to make sure there is no white inside, it's on the top of its condition, you take your hand and you put your big and index fingers together. And then you do not, how to say, do not stretch your muscles, keep it just slightly together. And if you touch this part, and then you touch the cheese, if it is the same softness, the cheese is good. We call it 4 quarters, you know, it totally aged to the top. If it is already good, but maybe a little bit yet hard, it would be the same feeling as if you put your big finger with the middle one. It will be a little bit harder. And the further you go, the harder you feel the cheese. Those two hardness, it's not good yet. No, it's good if you like the cheese under age, if you like it hard with a lot of white inside. In this case, yes, you put these 2 fingers, and if the cheese feels the same way, you choose those one. But if you want something rich already on the top of the condition, you either choose the cheese soft like this, or the best, the cheese should be soft like this. So it's 4 different quarters. Try, if you are in the shop and they let you touch it, just to choose, you will have a point of compare, how to compare it, how to find if the cheese is good already. And we come back to our presentation. So you see, as for me, those stripes on the rind, the smell of the cheese, it's, for me, it's an advantage. So then the question is, to personal tastes, we do not discuss it, but from the French point of view, the smeller here, the better. If it's not too much ammonia, if you feel the ammonia, lots of it, maybe it's already not very good, but you won't have any problems with your health. You can still eat the cheese, but it's a taste which is already not the best, maybe. So it's up to you to decide, but don't hesitate to taste it, maybe even a little bit. And you'll see, maybe you like it like this, a little bit too aged. Sometimes it's good. There are lots of people who like it like this. Second one, the shyest, the smallest, the less known Neufchâtel, but I love this one. What is the difference? If you have a look at those cheeses, comparing to Camembert, it's about the same rind. It's the same micro mushrooms, which are on the top of these both cheeses, but the inner part, the heart of the cheese, are made completely in different ways. Camembert, it's not a lactic cheese. It's a cheese. Oh, I've forgotten the English terms, but okay. But Neufchâtel, you know, it's a cheese which is coagulated mostly under the action of acids, and you see these very a little bit like sandy structure. So it's quite normal, especially when it is young and fresh. There is lots of freshness and acidity in this cheese. And by adding the flavor and the smell of fresh Pairings mushrooms, which comes from the Rhine, it gives to the cheese a very delicate aspect. It's when it is young or medium aged, it's never too strong. It's never too smelly. Acid, refreshing, very nice. But I found you a really very rare picture of this cheese, which is aged, I would say, in a very ancient French way. I should tell you that French people never throw any cheeses, and they kept them in the open air. It was the main way to maintain the cheeses. So you had a very dried versions from most of any cheese, whatever you speak, in the Alps, in the south of France, in Normandy. Not to lose the cheese, they dried the cheeses to the stone condition. It was really very, very hard. And the cheeses like this could be kept for a very long time, but they were very, very, very strong in taste and in smell. And they found really a picture like this of this cheese dried up to this ancient condition. But there is very few of cheesemongers or affineurs who are working in this style now, because modern people prefer something creamier and softer and runny and easy. And the cheeses like this, believe me, if you taste it once, you'll never forget it. I had a chance to taste something like this, to find it on one of the events. It was remarkable, but I'm not sure I would do it again. I'm not an old French person. So how to choose them? Here, on the contrary, comparing to Camembert, if the rind is white with a very few spots or stripes, it's okay. It's still fresh. It should be soft. It might become with the time a little bit runny under the rind. It's maybe the best, but it gains a little bit in strength, in smell, in the mouth. The texture becomes more creamy. The smell becomes stronger. It's one of my favorite. I'm really big fan of washed rind cheeses. That's why Livarot is also one of my favorite ones. I found you 3 different photos on 3 different levels of age. The younger one is on the photo on the right. You see the difference between the creamy area just under the rind and a little bit harder heart, the very center of cheese. Visually, you see the difference between these two areas. Sorry. On the top to the left, you see the cheese for me on the top of its condition. It's very homogene, we say it in France, of the same texture inside. The rind is very rich in color, but not yet too made. It should be really very, very good. And at the bottom, you see it starts to lose, it's not flat anymore. So it starts to go down from here to there. The color becomes rather of brick, brownish color, comparing to yellow or orange for the medium aged cheeses. It starts when you touch it, and Livarot is a little bit too old, you will feel it like a little grains of sand on the top. For me, it's a sign that the cheese is a little bit too aged. You shouldn't feel this sand on the rind. But still, I say it again, this cheese is completely eatable. We are speaking only about different levels of flavor, different levels of taste. It might be stronger, it might change a little bit, different notes would come or leave, but it would never do you any harm. So don't hesitate to taste it. Okay, I think it's the end of point. And the fourth, the last cheese. As I said, for me, Pont l'Évêque is something in between Camembert and Livarot, because in texture, in color, in aspect on the cut, you see the eyes, whatever, it's a cousin or even a twin of Camembert. The same signs of being well aged or not. If there is something white inside a white area, it's still too young. If it is already the same everywhere, it's very well aged. The rind should be kind of, you know, two-level rind. At the bottom, you have a very orange, a little bit rose level of Brevibacteria, which gives this color because the cheese was washed. But then they leave it to age without washing it again. And you see on the top of this rose yellowish color, there is a whitish kind of very, very soft mousse which starts to grow. And when it's still white, like on the two top photos, it means that the cheese is still young or mature, but not too old. Because comparing, have a look at the bottom photo, when the same as for the Livarot, when it starts to take rather brownish, darker colors, the surface become irregular with the holes here and there. It means, or it starts to make a cracks, you know, the holes, the long holes like this. It means that maybe the cheese was kept a little bit too long, and you'll feel it also on the level of smell and the taste. So choose rather something younger, and it will be softer, it will be milder. And the bottom one, I would say, it's really for the lovers of very, very strong characters and cheeses. And for the pairings, I'll do it quite fast, because here it's maybe the easiest case for choosing the pairings. You use one of two main principles we learn at Academy. The first one, if you choose the beverage to pair with your cheese and you don't want to be mistaken, choose something local from the same area. And for our cheeses, the local beverages, it's a cider or poiré. Cider, it's a very light wine from apples, and poiré, it's a very light wine from pears. Both beverages are made in Normandy, and it's the best pairing for any of those cheeses. Then, generally speaking, if you choose a white wine, there will be no big mistake. But if you choose a red wine and you have no other choice, try to stay on the lighter side. But it's really a very, very general rule. Now we'll have a look very quickly on every cheese. I put it together, Camembert of Normandy and Neufchâtel, because both of them are mostly defined by the taste of the rind. Very mushroomy, very refreshing. And we choose the beverage by the same rules for both of them. As I said, local cider or poiré or Calvados. It also might be paired with those cheeses. There will be no mistake. For both of them, you choose very, very light floral or herbal wines with not much sugar, like Riesling, but French Riesling, not German ones with a lot of sugar. Chenin, Anjou, Loire region, the whites, which herbal floral side would be perfect. If you have to choose a red wine, choose the lightest one, like Burgundy one, like Pinot Noir or Beaujolais Village. Because the white rind and the strong tannins, the elements which is in a full-bodied red wines like Bordeaux, it's a direct conflict. It gives the taste of metal in your mouth. And it's really the main rule we were taught in every school. Every French teacher, every French specialist would tell you, this rule should be remembered, but really, you wake up in the night and you say, never white rind and strong red wine. So like this, we learned it really by heart. Never together, never in the same mouth. White rind, no strong red wine. But cider or the white wine will be no problem. Pont-l'Évêque, since it's a little bit richer, stronger, cider or Poiré, you would never be mistaken. But in this case, you can already choose the white wines, which are a little bit fruitier and richer, because your cheese is richer, your cheese is stronger, your cheese is more smelly. So in this case, you can go maybe to the Pinot Gris or Gewürztraminer, which contains a little bit more sugar, which are rather fruity honey side. It's not just the herbs or very light floral, but it's already honey or bakery, something sweeter, something rounder. So the strength of cheese would be compensated by this sweeter side. And the red wines, the same. You can already go a little bit stronger. You measure really by strength of the wine. It stays still light red wines, but you can add a little bit of Grenache or something already richer, something with a, soil dust smell in wines, all those notes of spices, but not very strong. It might go well. Stronger cheese, stronger wine. They should be on the same level of fourth. And the last one, the strongest, Livarot. Oh, this one would accept every strong partner. In this case, you choose whatever you like. Sweeter wines, like Montbozillard and Sauterne. Medium light or even rich red wines, like Saint-Joseph, Rhone Valley, Bordeaux wines. The stronger cheese, really very powerful, pairs very well with very powerful wine. It's the only exception still not the exception of the rule I told you before, because the tannins here, but there is no white rind on it. It's a washed rind. No exception. Good for me. I didn't lie to you. So as you see, we use this rule. Choose the power of wine comparing to the power of your cheese. They should be on the same level of strength. And like this, you won't spoil your tasting. Yes, thank you. Thank you for listening to me. I'm breathing a little bit. Take a sip.
Okay, no worries. Galina, you have shown us lots of handy tricks of looking at maturing. How are your cheeses looking on your table there? You have, she has.
I'll show you. Yes,
you have the 4 cheeses, and
yes,
I think the aroma must be incredible.
Oh, it's really, as I told you, I'm really disturbed by this smell, these smells. This one, I didn't even open it. It's a Neufchâtel. It's a quality which is not very good. I'll try to.
It's
maybe.
I think you mean it's good smells though, yeah?
No, it's a good smell. Yes, I'm trying to organize my video. Just 1 second.
Don't
Oh,
worry.
yes, it's much better like this. So it's my Neufchâtel cheese with a raw milk. And we'll have a look what it looks like, because it's still, you see, I didn't open it. I don't know what is inside. It will be a surprise for myself.
So we've got a couple of questions as well while you're doing that. So Claire has asked, given that grass feed changes during the year, the maturation times, etc. So changes in when the cows are outside or feeding on the grass, what would be the best time of year to have all of these cheeses at their best, so at their premium? Is there a certain season for these cheeses?
Yeah, you know, as for me, it depends really. The best cheeses are made of the best milk. For me, it's a rule, and the best milk is either at the end of the spring in May, because it's really the herb which is already quite different, you know, with different flowers start to come, and it's quite fresh. In the summer, it becomes drier, not that smelly, and it transfers less of perfume to the milk. So either it's in May, beginning of June, or in French we call it like a second herbage in September. Find autumn, August in September. And then just have a look at the medium aging period for every cheese. If, for instance, for the Camembert, it's at least 3-4 weeks. So for me, you choose the best moment for the milk, and you add maybe 5-6 weeks to eat. For me, the best, it would be in July. Really, the Camembert with a real raw milk coming from Normandy in July, it should be perfect. Or maybe in beginning of November and October.
Yeah.
So you add just a medium aging period. Those are the cheeses which are aged 4, 5, 6 weeks. So you won't be mistaken if you calculate it like this. So, and my Neufchâtel cheese. Oh, this one, you see, the one I showed you on the picture, it was completely white. Mine is a little bit older because it starts to take a color, especially on the ribs. We can see it quite well.
Yeah.
You see? And if we cut it, you'll see that is already quite creamy inside. It's totally...
Oh, it's very yellow.
Yes, and there is no white area anymore. You see, it became creamier. Unfortunately, I cannot show you. You have no this lactic structure. It's completely done. It should be eaten today, tomorrow.
Yes, you
the day after tomorrow, because it's very creamy, and it still smells of mushrooms. There is no ammonia. Very nice cheese. But it should be quite rich. It should be quite rich in texture.
Claire is also
flavor.
Claire, another question.
Sure.
Galina. Claire is also asking: is there any particular cheese makers, or cooperatives or affineurs that you would actually recommend for these cheeses?
Yeah, sure. Besides, the farmers, there may be for Livarot, there is 3 or 4 farmers which are left, so it's easy to choose. Other versions are industrial ones. If you want to, we can share maybe the list of my favorite makers.
Yes, we can do that.
Later, yes, I'll give you the names, because there is not too many of them, even in France, unfortunately. If we speak about French names or Camembert, yeah, we'll share it. I don't know how we can do it, Tracy, but with pleasure, I give you some names. So let's have a look. Yes, and then Camembert, the one I have. The same, I didn't open it yet. I don't know what is inside, but for me, I can judge by the, yes, let's have a look. It's already quite colored. There is lots of stripes on it. I can see, maybe it's not very well seen on the video, but it's already starts to become harder, a little bit drier. So the cheese is already not too young, because it starts to die a little bit, the mushrooms, especially on the sides. But no, there is no ammonia for the moment. It's good sign. And we'll try to cut it. Perfect.
It looks good.
Really on the top of it. I'll try to, for me, this is a light. I'll try maybe to, wait a second. Sorry, I'm.
I think I think Claire, if Claire's in the UK, we have.
Yes, I'll try. Well, you see, it's a light which was a little bit disturbing. So like this.
Yes.
You see, there is no white at all.
No.
It's completely homogeneous. You see, it's brilliant. It's not dry, but there is no white inside. For me, it's really the day it should be eaten on the camera.
Yes.
You see, it's beautiful. Not too many eyes. Everything is still yellowish.
We know what you're having for your supper, Galina. Lots of Normandy cheese.
Yes, it's my.
Hopefully, with a little bit of cider or.
Yes, and for the pairings, I'll show you just very quickly my Livarot. I took only a quart of 1/4 of it because it's a big cheese and I'm the only one in the family to eat it. And also this one is a very good. If we have a look at the rind, just to show you what I've explained, you see this one, it's still not too wet. The white, this kind of how to say mousse or something like this on the top, it's still living. So there is no dark color on it. It's really yellow, orange.
It does look good.
Very nice.
We've got a question from Jenny. Jenny is one of our very, very good friends. Hi, Jenny. I hope you're well. And she was great taste judging today. And she's saying, why is it so difficult to buy Pont l'Evêque in the UK? I think, Jenny, the supermarkets don't stock it, but I think some of you, our fantastic cheesemongers, will have it. Is it quite a popular cheese? It's a very popular cheese in France, but maybe not so much over here.
Not at all. Comparing to other cheeses, even Pont l'Evêque, it's not that popular. Really, you know, if someone is a French person, it doesn't mean that he really knows all the cheeses. People stay very local, in their preferences. People from Savoy, they like Alpine cheeses. From Auvergne, they like Auvergnat. People from Normandy like Normandy cheeses. But otherwise, especially the cheeses with very few cheesemakers, they're not very well known, unfortunately. But Pont l'Evêque, you can find it, but in supermarkets you can find an industrial version, which sometimes it's not very interesting. Mine is already, but really smelly. But this one is a little bit too old. You see what I explained? It starts to make those the breaks, a little bit on the top, but it's still quite good. Smells. This one is the strongest, even comparing to Livarot.
this one, Galina, is if you want the train carriage or the bus to yourself, you put this one in your bag. Yeah. So
Yeah.
nobody will sit by you because it is so smelly.
But normally I put it, yes, in Ziploc or something like this, because once, yeah, really, I had to get out of the metro because I was transported in my bag a Camembert, which spent one night out of fridge. And it was a real Camembert of Normandy. Really, I made 2 stops, but people started, to make a empty circle around me. So I said, oh, I don't want to be beaten. So I sort out, I made my way, just walking because I was really afraid for my, not for my life, but still, it was really, really smelly. And it's a Camembert, which is considered as a very easy cheese. So that's why I tell you, be really, really aware of it. It might be dangerous.
Yes.
And I'll take you really just one example. It's one of my favorite cider maker.
Oh yes, fantastic.
Yes. Besides, it's a it's a biological production, but it's not a Normandy cheese. It's from Brittany, and it's a big competition between 2 regions. But this one is really, really good. I love this one.
We will look out for that when we're all allowed to come back over the channel to France.
Yes, I hope really we won't stay locked for a long time.
Well, Boris Johnson has just announced that he's extending our rules and regulations till the middle of July. So I think.
Well, unfortunately, yes, we have no control of the situation, so we can hope we can do what we can do.
Yes.
Just to not to make too many stupid things, not to make.
But we have the fantastic Zoom, so we are able to communicate with you, and I've really enjoyed this evening. And
thank you.
Your knowledge and enthusiasm and your handling of the English language, when I know your brain is thinking in French and in Russian at the same time, it's fantastic. So well done on that, and it was really, really good.